What's going on, people? This is Jesseville, and we are here with episode 4 of Polygyny Talks, live with Brother Hondo Solomon, the author of the Polygamist Papers. Now, if you haven't watched our show before, polygyny is defined as a family structure that includes one husband who has multiple, two or more wives. And the whole idea of the show is to talk with polygynous husbands, brothers that are polygynists, and kind of just chop it up and converse with them about their lifestyle, their family life, etc., etc. So I'm sorry. I want to apologize to the listeners that are normally tuned in. We had a late show today. We basically had some scheduling conflicts, so what have you. But hopefully, brother Hondo Solomon will be able to maybe do a part 2 for us. We're going to check with him and see if we can make that happen for next week, maybe. But I appreciate everyone for watching the show. So right now, we are just going to be waiting on Brother Hondo Solomon to come in the show so we could get this thing on the road and start asking some questions. Again, episode 4, Polygyny Talks. I apologize for everyone that was expecting 5:30 or 8:30 p.m. We had a couple of scheduling conflicts. So hopefully we can get Brother Hondo Solomon in for maybe a quick 30-minute show tonight, and hopefully we can get him back for maybe a part 2 if he's available. We'll have to see. But I do want to thank you, brothers, for joining us, even though we have a late show tonight. You know, we're not going to keep you guys up too late. We want to definitely thank you guys for coming out and supporting Polygyny Talks. And so, you know, the reason for creating this, pretty much Polygyny Talk, we actually wanted to create a resource for brothers that are in the lifestyle and for brothers that are pursuing the lifestyle that may not necessarily be married. So we wanted to get and be able to talk with brothers that are more seasoned in this lifestyle, so we can get all types of good, great advice and things of that nature that we can draw from. Because, you know, everything is much easier when you can kind of talk to people that have experience in doing it before you. So it's better to draw from the vast knowledge of the experienced brothers than it is just to go out there willy-nilly and you know, pretty much playing it by ear, right? And so Brother Hondo Solomon is probably one of the most seasoned brothers in terms of polygyny in the Western hemisphere, right? He's one of the brothers that have been talking about it for many years on YouTube and other social media platforms. He has had interviews and informational videos. He's a published author on the topic. He's done a lot of research. And he's also done blog talks and live streams on Facebook where he's touched on several topics dealing with polygyny. And so, this is one of the brothers that I definitely want to get on, along with the other brothers that I have planned in the future. And so he should be joining us shortly. Hopefully, we can get him in soon. And so this is what the people wanted. Brother Hondo Solomon, he's very much so a veteran on this topic and has been in the lifestyle for many years. Yes, sir. Okay, folks, we have the brother Hondo Solomon with us tonight. We got some people in the chat room. Brother Gerard Abin Lamont says hello in the chat room. What's going on, brother Hondo?
Hey, peace. How's everybody?
Hold on 1 second. I'm not hearing you. The audio. Okay, I got you now. I got some audio with you now. Okay, I hear you loud and clear. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, brother. It's been a long day. I was actually working. and got a little held up at work. So I tell you what, I'm gonna improve my sound a little bit. I'm gonna turn my video off and I'm gonna grab my headphones that has a speaker on them, and then that way we won't have any problems. Hold, please.
Okay, cool. All right, so we got the brother Hondo Solomon in the building, the man, the myth, the legend. A lot of great responses for people and a lot of the polygynist groups when I announced him as the guest. So there's a lot of people that's looking forward to it. I'm sure most people will probably catch the replay as it is a Friday night for the single brothers. I'm sure most brothers are probably out, trying to get them look for them another wife or something like that. But I'm sure the brothers will be able to catch the replay and be able to get in on that great information that we're receiving. Okay, so you got the headset. So man, brother Hondo, I know you've been on the YouTube for a minute. You've been on social media. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
But first, I can't see you. I don't know if that's done on purpose, but I can't see your video. I can't see you at all. Your sound is a bit choppy. It's coming in a bit choppy.
A bit choppy? Is it a little better now?
Yeah, it's static. There's a lot of static.
Okay. Let me see. What about now?
That's a little better. It's a little better. How about is my sound better with the headset?
Your sound is perfect. It's perfect for my end.
Excellent. Okay. Please continue. I don't want to interrupt. I'm all set now, so we're good.
Okay, so I pretty much prepped the show. You know what I mean? Let's get into it with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself for brothers who may not be familiar with your work.
All right. Well, again, my name is Hondo Solomon. I'm the author of the Polygamist Papers series. The second book in the series is called Polygamy as Economic Warfare. A dossier on family rule and government, and that debuts summer of 2019. The first book has been on Amazon since March of 2013. It is called The Polygamist Papers, An Introduction to Polygamist Culture and Its Principles, Pitfalls, and Ethics. It currently is rated in the top 5 at Amazon. If you're going by customer rating, there's a 4.7 out of 5-star rating, and it has 52 reviews at Amazon. I have not placed that book on any other sites yet, as of yet, but forthcoming, along with the sequel, I'm going to rewrite the first volume, and it should be double the size of what it is now. And then you will have the manual on applying polygyny in a modern context in the second book called Polygamy as Economic Warfare. As far as myself is concerned, as far as my background is concerned, I grew up in an apostolic Pentecostal home. When my mother and father divorced, sometime later, probably a year later, she began dating, I guess you want to call it, in an American context. She started dating a minister at our church who had a wife and 7 children, and they were together for most of my childhood. So I had a chance to see at least, if nothing else, a scaled down version of polygamy within a Black American context. So I saw someone who was an entrepreneur, and then I saw my mom helping him, and then he had his family. I even went to college with one of his daughters. So that connection had remained for some years. So growing up in the church, I remember, I guess, seeing it as normal. A man having multiple women was just a normal thing to me. Even when I was coming up as a teenager, I mean, it was just normal to me. So when I heard people scoffing at it, I said, well, that's nothing. This is, you're a man, you should have a few women. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if they are cooperating with you and they are giving you some peace. I believe that's what women are naturally designed for, is to provide men with a reprieve from our naturally aggressive nature.
Right.
They're from the soft timbre of their voice to their skin to their shape. These things play upon the man's hormones. That's why we get excited when we get around women. We're like, man, she's so beautiful. And then you start you start telling your friends about a woman who is particularly cooperative. She's peaceful. And that's one of the things that we always share with our friends. But nevertheless, I didn't really think about polygamy that much when I was a boy, because it was never taught to me verbally. It was just something that was done. And I understood that this man has some jurisdiction over my mother, because my mother was single, obviously, before they met. And, the rest of my family knew him. Both sides of my family knew him. So it wasn't like some secret, who is this guy? They knew who he was from the beginning. And he was an entrepreneur, had a small janitorial business. And I actually used to go to the job sites with him sometimes. And I believe that had a large effect on how I view the realm of polygyny now, whereas at least on some level, there's some cooperation going on between at least one of a man's women and himself, especially if he's in business. So that's why you've heard me say, Brother Jesse, many times that women should always help a man along in, building his household, some way, shape, or form, whether it's having his children, whether it's taking care of a home, whether it's she manages one of his businesses, or he opens up a business for her to manage, doing something that she enjoys, something that she's skilled at. These things should always be normal to a man. So I would say 95% of the discussion that I see in cyberspace, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on social networks, in person, where I've gotten emails from people, and I'm always shaking my head like, this, to me, it's just like drinking a glass of water. Polygamy is that normal. It's something that belongs in a society. And as it stands, you've got over 85% of the world's cultures that still practice polygyny. So for me, it's normal. As far as the rest of my background is concerned, I have no college degree. I've always wanted to be an author. I really had no aspirations aside from a couple of years in college where I wanted to pursue a corporate life, but that didn't work. So most of my life, since I was 11 years old, I've actually done something where I worked for myself. So when I tell men, hey, you should work for yourself, that's normal to me because I've worked for myself for decades now. It's literally been decades. So many of the details and the particulars of polygynous culture, I lived it. I even lived it while I was traveling alone and I was doing my minimalist thing, my nomadic thing, or whether I was part of a commune or a compound. As it stands, I actually live on a compound with, there are hundreds of people where I live at. So now, right now, as you can see in the background, I'm actually in a hotel because I'm in the U.S., but I actually live in the Philippines, and my consorts are all Filipina. Okay. I also have some links to obtaining my primary wife from the culture that I now practice, which is no longer Christianity. And I have links with one of my students who knows different women and things like that, and he knows families, and so I have connections where I can reach into these different pockets of society, international society, and obtain more wives if I wanted to. Now, what's interesting is that, and hopefully we'll get into this later, but polygamous men tend to network a totally different way than the prescriptive monogamous man. Okay, we always have prospects on the table. We always have prospects because we're always engaging in business. We're always connecting with families. See, that's the secret to the whole thing, is connecting with these women's families. But most men, even the ones here who want to engage in polygamy, the first thing they do is they talk to the woman too much. They talking way too much to the woman. And my first question to a woman is, do you live with your parents? Now an American woman would say, what do you mean, do I live with my parents? But all my consorts, I'm familiar with their families. See, and when I told them I wanted to meet their family, they're like, oh, wow, you're a different type of foreigner. You actually want to practice the traditions we practice. I said, well, yeah, we do that in my culture too. So again, for me, it's normal. And I was taught that as a boy, actually, to always meet a girl's parents. And I carried that with me up until the present day. I think it's rather inappropriate for a man to spend any ordinate amount of time with a woman and you don't know her family. In fact, that's most of the problems with the men now. But nevertheless, let me go back to my background right now.
It's interesting that you said that, because what I have found is that you can learn a lot about a woman just by observing the behaviors of her parents, just by having a conversation with her parents.
That's
and a lot of modern men in the West don't really do it, but I do find that in more traditional cultures, such as Muslims, like the Muslim brother that I interviewed, he has a, not exactly the same, but it's a similar situation where he only looks for wives within his culture primarily, and deals with Muslim families and what have you. So that was a very powerful statement around in terms of focusing more so on the family than the women. But go ahead, brother.
Yes, absolutely. Just to give a little bit more about my background. So I dropped out of college because the learning style is more focused on rote memorization. Whereas plus at the time I was traveling, I didn't have the support system that is normally necessary within a more patriarchal structure. I actually was raised in a gynocracy, and I was the only person between both sides of my family who stepped away from that. See, so families that engage in polygyny and societies that engage in polygyny are primarily patriarchal, because polygyny itself is always patriarchal. Even polyandry is patriarchal, but a lot of people think this is something that the woman is running, and the women don't run that. Okay, but hopefully we'll get into that too. Because I was late, I want to make sure that everybody is laced with some really good knowledge, and I want to make sure that y'all step away with the truth about some of the higher concepts of polygyny. Because normally, you and I spoke about this, offline. Most of the time, people want to discuss polygamy like we're appealing to women, and if you just act as a man, you're going to appeal to women. That's just the way it is. And I remember I'm getting to know, but she said something to me out of the blue, and I didn't prompt this at all. We were talking about polygamy, but she said, "Sir," she called me sir. She said, "Sir, you have the looks, the money, and the power to have multiple women." She said, I can see why other girls like you and why you're able to manage multiple girls. She said, because she said, I see it. She said, and she said, now it's starting to make sense to me. And I found that interesting, because one thing about women, they're always reflecting on things that you say, okay, whether they want to admit it or not. They're always reflecting on these things. And a wise woman, a good woman, a decent woman, she's going to, at some point, slingshot that back around to you and tell her, and she's gonna tell you some of her thoughts about what you taught her. So anyway, I dropped out of college. I've lived as a minimalist for years. I've had, nice apartments and 2 special edition deluxe vehicles in the driveway. I've had that before, and I didn't like it. And what's unique about my particular household is that all of us are minimalists. All of us. My consorts and I, we can converge and we can pack up and go, within a few minutes. So we each don't own a lot of things. And yet collectively, for example, we speak almost a dozen languages collectively. I speak 2, I can read 3 additional languages. My main consort, she can speak 5 languages. Another one of my consorts can speak 4 languages. Another one speaks 3, and then there's some more. There's some more consorts. So
hey, between the whole family, man, y'all can open up some type of translator business or something like that, man. That's incredible.
Absolutely, and that's something I'm looking into is teaching English as a second language, or TEFL, or teaching English as a foreign language, teaching English as a second language, either TESOL or TEFL. I want all of us to get certification that way we can work there as a family unit and have a business doing that. And I think it's profitable, especially because one thing about, and I'm going into economic warfare here, but the Chinese have a lot of influence in the Philippines. So the Chinese, everywhere they go, they're trying to learn English. And most of the time they move to the US, if they haven't learned English in China, they don't know English when they reach these other countries. And the Philippines, once you go into the cities, most people speak English.
Right.
So it's a good thing. But nevertheless, my background with polygyny is I've had harems. I did it real sloppy. I didn't really understand a lot of the things that I teach now. I didn't understand the importance of finance. I used to downplay the importance of finance. Like, I don't have to have so much money to deal with these women and to actually manage the energies and the resources that I have in my hands. But what I learned is that the finances allow you to, finances are like the oil in your car engine. It allows the engine to run smoothly because you can constantly put something here and put something there, and you can make things constantly move. Right. So while a man doesn't have to be financially rich, he does have to be rich in resources, inner resources and material resources.
Okay.
That will be real estate. That will be knowing logistics and how to manage people's talents and skills and abilities and gifts. Knowing yourself and how much you can handle, how many women you can handle. Some guys just keep trying to pile up women. It's like, if you can only handle 8 women, then don't try to get 9. Okay, if you can only handle 2, then don't try to get 3. And that's something you have to be very honest with yourself about. Is what you can handle. But go ahead, brother. I know you. I'm going on. So.
Yeah. That's all good information, brother. But you mentioned that you grew up seeing your father dealing with multiple women. You've had
actually, he was not my biological father. Remember, my biological father. My mother divorced when I was very young, and about a year later, she met another man, and then he was already married, and everybody knew they were together. I mean, we were in a very prominent church. Everybody knew they were together. So,
gotcha.
Just give the.
So you've had harems, and you say you were sloppy in the past. At what point did you...
Let me be clear on that. Okay. I was dating multiple women. I don't want to act like I had a household and we were all, doing the business thing, and then we just all split and divorced and all that. I didn't do that. I had, on 2 occasions, I was dating multiple women who all knew about each other, and they were all like, we don't care. Like, so. That's why it baffles me when men are constantly contesting with women about other women, because I don't know what that's like. Is weird to me. It's like, what do you mean your wife is fighting you over other women? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, well, that means you're not carrying yourself like a polygamist, because that's where the power comes in. Is your charisma. Is not you trying to convince. It's not you convincing women about other women. A lot of brothers contact me.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this,
Yeah.
brother. Do you find it easier with American women to date them to date them along with other women than it is to present polygyny as an option?
Well, two things. Number one, I'm going to correct something you said. I don't teach a dating system because dating is backward. I don't have to date a woman in order to know how she is. I don't. It's when you study what's called physiognomy, which is the science and art of reading body language and the zones of the body for like emotional health, physical health. A polygamous man has to master that. It's the same thing that the alphabet agencies use, same thing that the shadow governments use, in the military. They use all that to study people. And that's how they know how to attack people, how to sneak up on people, things like that. They study all that. Well, you need to know that in order to manage women. But to date women in order to see how they are, that's a mistake. And that's actually a mistake, too, that married couples, when they are seeking, I guess I should say, when the man wants another wife, they want to date this woman over time. You don't have to do all that. See, again, dating takes out the power of parentage. Remember, dating takes away the power from parentage. In other words, it removes the ability for you to examine the girl's family right up front. You see, that's why I always meet my potential consort's families right up front. I always meet them immediately. And an American woman usually is going to scoff at that. And I'm going to tell all the men this, everybody hearing my voice, I want you to pay very close attention. Do not deviate from what I'm going to tell you. Do not ever date a woman especially multiple times. Like, it's one thing if you met her after work and you happen to be somewhere and you say, hey, let's meet for lunch like in 2 hours. Okay, that might be something like that might be an exception. But aside from that, you always meet a girl's parents. If you're serious about actually getting to know her, you always meet her parents ASAP. Don't ever wait 6 months. You've been smashing. You've been talking to her on the phone incessantly. That's a waste of your time. Because if she loves her dad, then again, we know that there's a lot of divorce here in the United States, in North America in general. But if she's close with her father, whether or not her parents are still married or whether they are not married, if she loves her dad, that you always want to listen for that. If she says, oh, I've never met him and I don't want to meet him. If she says something like that, don't take her on. See, these are
that's a gem right there. That's
protocols. These are mating protocols. These are courtship protocols. If your culture practices courtship, don't ever have any dealings with a woman who says, I hate my father, unless there was some form of sexual or physical abuse involved. Then she has a right to hate her father. But most of the time, that's not the case. So if she says, well, my father and I know my dad, but we're not really close. That's not a red flag. That's a deal breaker. There's a difference between a red flag and a deal breaker. Red flags can be investigated. She can be vetted. But a deal breaker is you do not pass that point with that woman at all. See, it's not the same as when a man doesn't necessarily love his mother. See, and I'm going to get into that maybe in another interview. But whenever men and women say, oh, well, yeah, but men do this or women do this, so I can do it, that's also a sign that person is dysfunctional. Biology, men on a spiritual level and on a physiological level. So we're not the same. We react to different stressors and different stimuli differently. We react to the same stimuli and the same same stimuli and the same like under duress, the same stresses. We react differently to the same things. Mm-hmm. So we're not the same. We're equal in importance, but not in rank. Okay, and definitely not in the way that we act upon our respective environments, and not the way that we react to those stresses and to those stimuli. So going back to meeting a woman, I see it all the time. I've heard just about every story you can ever hear about the disasters. I've gone through it. I've had, I've had times where I went in with a woman and I wanted to date her, have sex with her, and I wasn't following traditional mating protocols, which is bad. Now, my cipher now is strong because I know their families, because their families like me. You see what I'm saying? Like they like me and they respect me. And see, every last one of them said, "We really appreciate you for coming to meet us before you took our daughter." Everybody said that. Every family said that. And I find that interesting that upon doing that, now with my main consort, I ended up getting land. I ended up getting skills that she had. I didn't even know she had until we were together for a while. I was like, wow, I didn't even valuable skills that she has. But the key to the whole thing was I went, and I'm going to use my main consort most of the time as an example, because everything that I teach happened with her, and she's not even my primary wife. She's my primary consort, but she's not my primary wife. We'll explain the ranks in a minute, the ranks of the women in the family. But I remember going.
I was just about to ask you that.
Sure.
I do have one more. I do have a question before you get to the ranks of the family, though. But continue.
Sure. So I remember going in to meet her family, and just like I'm sitting down now, she was sitting to my left, and we were being, it was not offensive at all. But her family sat on the floor in front of us while we sat in chairs. We sat next to each other. The family faced us. It was her father, her mother, her eldest brother, and it was her two elder sisters. And they sat, and I reintroduced myself, and they wanted to make sure that they checked some of the things that my consort had told them about me. They said, "Okay, what do you do?" I told them what I do for a living. I have like 3 professions, so I said, "Okay, this is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I do." And I remember they saying, "Oh, okay." And it was very easygoing, it was very respectful. And they said their main concern was that number one, because I'm showing my finger, I shouldn't say A, right? But number one, their concern was that I treat her well. Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 2, they wanted to make sure that I took care of her. Whether or not she worked outside the house, or whether they wanted to make sure that I was viable for her. Because she had always spoken highly of me anyway. And for them, I'll put it like this. I'll tell you what happened right after the family meeting. So at the end of the family meeting, in front of everybody, remember, now I practice, Israelite culture. And in most of the patriarchal societies, Hindu society, Islamic society, ancient Christianity, traditional Israelite culture, is what I've dubbed it the law of witness. When a thing is established, you always establish it with multiple people. That way, nobody can say it's his word versus her word. So her father says in front of everyone, he says, "Well, I think it's time, the meeting to be over." And remember, I was in his house. He's the patriarch of that household. So it was up to him how long that meeting lasted. If it lasted all day, that's up to him. Right. But it only lasted about 2 hours. He says, "Okay, the meeting is over now." He said, "Hondo, you can have my daughter." He said, "Again, I appreciate you for coming out here." He said, "But I like you." He said, "You can have my daughter." And don't you know, when the family, everybody went back doing what they're doing, mm-hmm. I went outside for a minute just to get some air. And my lady comes up to me and says, "Sir, Papa wants to talk to you." And now watch that. She came to me and basically introduced him back to me. Mm-hmm. And as soon as she walked away, he appeared. And he grabbed my arm and he shook my arm. He said, "Anything you want, Hondo, you come tell Papa." He said, "And I'll give it to you." He said, "I really thank you for coming out here." He said, "Because a lot of people wouldn't have come out here. They would have just took my daughter off somewhere." Now, do you see that? Now, a few hours later, I was outside and I was looking at the mountains, because we live deep in the countryside. So I said,
and these your in-laws and the sister that we're talking about, these people live in the Philippines, correct?
Yes. I was in the Philippines when this happened. They weren't visiting me.
Okay.
I went to them. And I remember I was standing outside a couple hours later, and I'm looking at all this land, and I asked my woman, because she was standing way over on the land somewhere. I called her, and she came over, said, I said, is all this land all your family's land? I mean, I'm looking miles in the distance, brother. I'm looking miles in the distance. And she said, she looked for a second, and she said, yeah. She said, almost to the mountains there. And I said, baby, you do realize that's 10, 15 miles away. She said, yeah. And she said it like it was nothing, because in the Philippines, most of the families own their own land. So I said, I'll tell you what, go ask your father if I can have a piece of land to build us a house on. It was just something that just came to me instinctively, right?
Right.
And she says, okay, sir. So she walked away, and like 5 minutes later, he came out of the house with like 8 other people. And then like some people from the other side of the property, some other family members, they came over. So it was like about 15 people standing around me. And he said, come with me. And he showed me about 1/3 of an acre of land next to everybody else's house. He said, Hondo, you can build your house right here. Just like that. I went from having no home to having a home, having no land to having land. Why? Because I met her family first and got approval from her father. Now imagine if I was being grimy and I dated her for 6 months and her family hadn't met me. Over there, even though they have their societal problems, they do have some issues in the culture. One thing that the parents, especially when they live in the countryside, one thing they respect is when you come meet them about their daughter. Because at that point, and I want all men, brothers or not, to listen to what I'm saying here. It went the 2 times she acted up early in the beginning, way in the beginning, all I had to do was tell her father, and he put her in check. He put her in check. I said, Papa, I was like, you know, she said something real greasy to me. I don't appreciate that. I didn't come all the way out here for that. I was real blunt with him. And he pulled her coattail. And then her mom pulled her coattail. I was like, what are you doing? Hondo's over there taking care of you, handling business. No. You know, you don't.
So there's that familial support in that traditional culture.
Thank you. And thank you. And if brothers did that, you would see no men getting on the internet talking, complaining about women. You will see no complaints. But see, most men are too busy trying to bend her over that they don't stop to think for a minute. Because I know Filipino culture. The women are going to give you sex if they like you. That's just how they are. Like, they give it to you real quick if they like you. But that's why I was quick, because, my woman looks good. My consort is bad. So I was like, okay, let me take care of this before, we start having babies and I ain't met her family and all that. Let me go talk to her family.
Right.
And it's funny because she was actually in another city working at that time. And when I got there, I said, look, I'm gonna give you the money to arrange us a bus and a plane or a ferry boat or something. I want you to look into it, see what the best way for us to get there. Gave her the money. She bought our tickets. We went to see their family. So I spent all that time telling y'all that story because it's not theory. The things that I teach are not theory. Like, I'm either doing them or I've done them, or I'm prepping that now. You know what I'm saying? So when I tell brothers to go meet their families, that garners respect from women in a traditional society. Now, of course, Brother Jesse, offline, you asked me, well, what about men who want American women? I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have some problems. Because most American women don't want that type of thing. I had a couple of women tell me, I told one girl, I said, and I know her in person. I said, look, I want to talk with your father. And she said, what are you talking about? We just started talking, Hondo. She said, I ain't ready for all that. She's like, what if we don't work out? What if we do get together and then we don't work out? I said, listen, here's what I'm about. Here's what I'm doing. This is the way I do things. I'm either going to talk to your father or we going to stop talking. I'll hang up the phone now. No animosity. You can go your own way. Now, remember, I left the choice with her because I've already made my choice.
Now how far off into talking or getting to know the sister was this when you presented her with that ultimatum?
This was like probably our, I think probably second, third conversation, because we at that time we talked every day.
Okay.
We would talk for like a couple hours a day. So, it was, there's nothing wrong getting to know her, because we are in an American context. Generally, when you meet a woman, she's not chaperoned by the men in her family or an older sister, things like that. So you're going to talk her up for a couple conversations. But I said, I want to talk with your family though, your father. I said her father specifically. And when she balked, and I said, well, we're not going to talk then. I didn't say we can't. I said we're not, because that places that choice on me. And she says, she's all right. She said, okay, hold on. Say, here's my father's number. And I spoke with her. And I can name two other instances, two other women where I did the same thing, and they reacted the same way. They gave me the father's number. And when I called them, I think aside from the last one, the first two, they both said, I'm really surprised that you called me, because when I watched this, these women were like 30 plus.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. No, hold on. Scratch that. One was 30 plus. The other two were like mid to late 20s.
Okay.
Both those men told me, these fathers said, Hondo, thank you for calling, because no other man has ever called me or even spoken to me about my daughter. I want y'all to, I'm going to say it again. These women were 25, like 28 years old. No man had done that. But remember, I was taught to do that. So, for me, it was, there were, even though I was growing up even though I grew up in a gynocracy, there were some things I learned that were very, they bordered on patriarchal. So I took that and I magnified it. So it works. It works. But I had less problems out of those women for a shorter period of time. Okay. Than these brothers who just smashing and you dating, then you got kids and you ain't met her family. That's a problem. And that's your fault. And I'm talking to the brothers. That's their fault.
Now let me ask you this, brother. At what point did you decide to go from just dating women and multiple women into going full-fledged, saying that I'm going to practice polygyny specifically?
Well, let me put it like this. When I left college, I started getting around brothers who usually were older than me. Most of my brothers, my comrades are older than me, most of them. And they started pulling my coattails like, yo, man, why are you dealing with these old chicks? I had a lot of older women at the time. Like, why are you dealing with these older chicks? Why are you dealing with all these baby moms? Hondo, why are you dealing with hood rats? Hondo, why are you dealing with that woman who doesn't fit any of those categories, but she's not cooperative? These brothers was staying on, they stayed on top of me about that, Brother Jesse. They stayed on me about that. And this is over a period of years. One of my older brothers now, he actually is completed a book on tribal families. And he's going to debut that soon too. But nevertheless, I remember back in 2008, I used to discuss polygamy with him week in, week out. And he used to pull me aside and look, Hondo, you got to stop dealing with those type of women. See, when I look back on it, and some of my friends alluded to this, they said, the places you're going in life requires you to have this type of woman, this superior woman. You can't deal with these low-level females. So you need to put all that away, brother, because you're better than that. And a woman actually told me, a sister that I knew, I still know to this day, I've known her probably 12 years now. She said, Hondo, she said, I'm actually surprised that a man like you dealt with women, is dealing with women like that. And when she said that, I think that was the linchpin in the whole thing. Because remember, all my comrades were telling me the same thing. The same stuff I tell brothers, they were on top of me worse than that. Because these brothers was dang on near cussing me out. And one brother actually removed resources from me that I could no longer access. He took it that far. And see, looking back, And if I could ever get back in touch with him, because I lost his phone number when some of my phone numbers got deleted when I transferred numbers. You know, they messed me up at the phone spot. But I would thank that brother if I ever see him again, because when he did that, I was very angry with him and I didn't want to talk to him anymore. But I remember years later, and this took me about 7 or 8 years to think about it.
Damn.
Yeah. It took me that long. See, I was hard-headed like some of these brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want tradition, I didn't mind tradition without, but for me, that was a far off place, like, tradition and good women and all. I was like, look,
just a side note that's kind of related, man. I actually, I had an older brother who's about 58, who did practice polygyny, in a way, and he was pretty much telling me, I need to start wasting my time with sisters from the United States. Now, I didn't necessarily get mad with him, right? But in my mind, I wasn't, at the time, I wasn't able to fully realize it. You know what I mean? Like, even right now, I'm still willing to give American Black women a chance to a certain degree. But it's like, as more time goes on, the less willing I'm able to deal with it. I mean, I'm at the point right now, I already filled out my visa application for Ghana, and I'm looking at a few other more countries outside of the United States to start going to. So I feel you definitely on that, being a little bit hard-headed at a younger age, you know what I'm saying? So I could definitely relate.
Well, that comes from us, most of us being raised in single parent homes or broken homes, because technically my home was a broken home because my mother and my biological father were divorced. But even though she had a man growing up and I learned a lot of masculine things by observing their relationship, it was still technically it was still a broken home.
Right.
But most brothers, especially, and I guess, we're addressing brothers for the most part, but I know that I have a lot of supporters who are not Black, but the effects of growing up in a dysfunctional environment means that you will then seek dysfunctional women automatically. It'll be automatic. So then you have to constantly study and be immersed among people who are about function and form.
Right.
And that's why you didn't want to listen to the brother at first, because of that.
And I'll say this too. I don't want to make it seem like I was just looking for dysfunctional women. I was more so looking to look for the needle in the haystack. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are a small percentage, and the more I look, the smaller that percentage goes for me. Like, I'm like, so right now I'll say 72% of African American men, women, and men, you know what I'm saying, on both sides of the table are dysfunctional in terms of having a functional relationship. And I'll say that maybe there's maybe like 28%, if that, and I'm being very generous, because I have met, some sisters that are African American women that don't have those issues and stuff like that. But to find them, it's a lot more difficult than just to getting a flight to the Philippines or Brazil or a country in Africa where polygyny is practiced and is normalized.
Yeah, well, it's about practice, and we don't get the opportunity to begin to function properly until we're older. Whereas when we're 3, 4, 5 years old, like that, I was growing as a boy into a man. I had a lot of women around me, my family included, but even women I knew, they in school, the neighborhood, were trying to bring me back into this mix of dysfunction. And I've always been very masculine and always told women what to do. And that was something I remember my mother used to tell me, like, son, you can't just talk to women like that. And I looked at her one day, and I was young. I was probably, I think, 12 or 13. I looked at her, I said, why not? I said, you're a woman, I'm a man. I remember I was 12, 13. I said,
Right.
Ma, one day I said, I'm gonna tell you what to do. And she looked at me, she said, boy, I said, no. I was like, I'm a man. I was like, you see that I work? You see I know how to handle money? I said, I go about my day and I'm responsible. I said, that means I'm a man. I said, and really, at some point, you will be under my command. And it's funny because I remember telling her about a year later, I was probably in my mid-teens, about 13, 14. And I told her, I said, Ma, traditional societies, the sons command the family if the father is not there. I said, now you're with your man who you were with after my father. I said, but he has his house and we have our house. I said, so that means I'm in charge. And I understood it just instinctively. I understood that. I wasn't a whole bunch of research either. This wasn't YouTube and I got to go have people school me on it. It was my instincts kicking in. And everybody tried to get me out of that mode. Now, notice most of this interview, Brother Jesse, we have not really addressed having a bunch of women. We've addressed these other details that make up polygamy, because polygamy is this thing that rises up out of functional relationships. And then, you will know how to deal with 2 or 3 women or 1 woman. Now, I will say this, because I hear it a lot. A lot of guys say, well, you have to know how to, manage and be married to 1 woman before you marry 3 women. I disagree with that. Some of us, myself included, don't do well with 1 woman. I'm cranky with 1 woman. Nothing gets done. I never get anything done when I have 1 woman. Nothing gets done. She has her own duties, things that she likes to do. She might like to sew, or she might like to, design jewelry or something. She's busy and I'm busy. 1 woman is not enough for some of us. So it doesn't work. Now, when I have 3 or 4 women, things are peaceful. Usually I always make more money when I have 3 or 4 women. I always make more money. My ideas start to spread, and I'm happier. So we have to look at the whole range of men that exist within polygynous societies and within polygynous culture in general. Okay. So some of us do well with multiple women, and we don't do well monogamously. In fact, it's always been disaster whenever I've been with 1 woman. And she always, because this is natural for a woman, when you have 1 woman, especially when you live with that woman, she will instinctively attempt to control and command your time and your energy. That's one reason many of us have multiple women. I don't allow women to control my time and control my energy. I go where I want. I'll come see them when I want to see them. You see?
Absolutely.
So, I'm just kind of flowing off the, top of my head right now. So
let's get into your particular family, right? I always ask one of the brothers in the interview, like, how many wives do you have? How long you've been married, and for you particular, because you have this distinct thing that I haven't heard from any polygynous men, but break down what is a consort and how many consorts do you have?
All right. Regarding the number of consorts I have, I never give the exact number. Number one, it's actually a couple of reasons. One, that's a security issue. Within any family, monogamous or polygynous, you have combat is one of the spheres of influence in the family. Okay, and you have about 10 others as well. Okay, so combat means it's not just going on the offensive to attack when you have to. That's part of defense, is knowing what information to give and to whom, and what information to withhold. Okay,
right.
And being as that we are in the information age, and that a lot of people are always watching us polygamists, specifically people who watch these type of videos, these interviews, they want to, well, he only has 5, and then they want to start critiquing how many you got. If I have 10, they're going to say, well, that's too many. I've even seen people say, oh, well, 7 is too many for a man. Well, you don't know that. That depends on the man. If you only have 2, you might have some more powerful brothers say, well, man, that ain't enough, man. I got 25, which is cool. But you don't want people to unnecessarily critique your protocols and your government and what you do. For example, if you and I go to Washington, D.C., and we want to mail a letter to the White House and tell the president what we think about him and his government, he's not going to respond to that because he doesn't care. See, so even though my government is my government, that's my household, it's a distraction when you give away too much information about your household. But I do have multiple consorts. I don't even talk like a single guy. I don't talk like a man with one wife or one consort. So it's also because the second reason is because I respect my consort's space and their time, and I protect them. So, for example, all of them don't want to be all over. They don't want to be in my videos. They don't, and I know because I know how they are. I've never asked them to, because I just know how they are. They like to be home and spend time with me when I'm with each one. And they like to go do their thing, and then we reconverge, or we reconvene rather.
Right. What's the difference between a consort and a wife?
So, general nomenclature, a consort is a member of any body. It's a member of any body of entities or individuals with the same mission, goals, and values.
Okay.
So when you apply that to your woman, she is there to provide you with companionship on some level or another. She may be there because you think she's sexy. Okay, fine. You have a sexy consort. She's your companion in that regard. You may have a consort who is more business minded, and she's not so domestic. And that's okay for women not to be domestic if they're not domestic. But they have other skills. Each woman has her own skill set. So a consort is your woman who is with you and actually is cooperative and truly believes in you and your value system. And she is there for a particular need and or desire of yours. And she has agreed verbally or in written fashion to be with you. Okay. Now, in Israelite culture, a consort is any woman that you have as part of your household who is originally not from your society. She's not from your culture. Your wife is a woman who comes from your culture. So, for instance, if I am from Beni Israel, which are Indian Jews or Indian Israelites, I should say, then you normally get a woman from your own society. That will be your wife. Go ahead.
Well, quick question from brother in the chat. He wants to know, is a concubine the same as a consort?
It depends. Is the brother speaking from an Israelite perspective, or is he speaking from like kind of a general perspective?
General perspective.
Okay, so a general perspective, a concubine is there for sexual purposes. That's what she's there for. Okay, you think she's sexy? It's like, I hear brothers all the time say it. They'll say, well, I got a sister, I have a sister on the side, but my wife knows about her. But she keeps me company when I travel for work. Like there's a brother I know, he travels regionally for work. So he travels sometimes 300 miles away and he's got another companion at home. So he's got an additional companion at home. So anything in that case outside of your wife, that's your concubine. Now, if you've got two wives from your culture, whatever culture that is, a concubine is a woman who may serve you. Now, in Israelite culture, a concubine, and I want the Israelite brothers to really pay attention to this. A concubine is an Israelite woman who is a household servant. That's it. That's it. That's what she is. It's almost like you, Brother Jesse, going to hire a live-in maid. That's what a concubine is in Israelite culture. But
okay,
a lot of times the Israelite brothers will take on some of the more secular definitions. So it depends on the definition. Sometimes will deviate a little bit depending on what you practice. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, okay. Um, and I think earlier you said you wanted to break down some type of you wanted to break something down. Do you remember what you said maybe a few moments ago?
Well, I was speaking about combat and the protection of the women, and you asked the difference between the consorts. That was the last thing you
Okay.
asked that about 10 minutes ago. And before that, I was going in on something. You know, I was getting really passionate about
Right,
it.
right.
But I know you want to roll through the interview, so you're the guide in the interview. So I'll
So
follow your lead.
what would you say are the pros and benefits to polygyny? What would you say are the cons and challenges to polygyny? So start with the challenges first.
All right, so the challenges are a risk. You know, as a man, you always have to do a risk, what's called in the business world, a risk benefit analysis or a cost benefit analysis. And when you say the word cons, I don't see any cons in polygyny as far as, like this is just negative about polygyny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any negatives in polygyny. There's nothing. Are there challenges? Yes. Remember the subtitle of my first book, Introduction to Polygamous Culture and Its Principles, Pitfalls, and Ethics. Well, there are many challenges that are available. Then I'll go into the benefits and the things that are easy. First of all, the largest challenge to being a polygamous man is knowing yourself, and that's your strengths, your weaknesses. Okay. You need to know, even outside strengths and weaknesses, you need to know just what you're really good at, because the family will flow according to how you, the man, are. It's not going to flow according to really how the women are. It's really going to flow according to how you are, because what you feed the women, as far as your ism, as we say on the street, or your knowledge, your game, where you place the women, things like that. All that's going to come out of your personality and your character, your skills, things like that. And that's why you match up women and you get women according to how their skills complement yours. They don't have to have the same skills. It's always a good idea to get women who have skills you don't have. And just to bolster my point, none of my women, none of my consorts are like me. In fact, aside from enjoying exercise, I'm nothing like my consorts. We actually don't have things in common. You know, people like say, man, we gotta relate, man. We gotta have all this in common, man. And you know, if she don't like basketball and sports and going to the games, I can't. It's like, wait a minute. If she don't like going to the games, she don't like going to the games. Does that mean that she's not gonna fit? No.
So you're looking at more of a complementary match.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I always look at how that woman compliments me. That's why I've shunned certain women that I started talking to. I was like, well, she doesn't really, she doesn't really fit with me, like where I'm going. She doesn't have anything complimentary, or she does, but she's not, she doesn't have any smart, like any worldly smarts. You know what I'm saying? Like most of my women originally come from the countryside, and I don't mind that. Okay. I actually lived in the country for much of my childhood. I lived in the countryside, so I can relate on that level. So when I go home, when I'm home, I'm very much, I guess, comfortable with living a very rugged lifestyle, because that's how we live. That's how my consorts and I live. We live very rugged lifestyle. So the proclivities of your consorts have to complement you. Now, as far as the challenges, more challenges are concerned, you screening the women can take time, and that's why your main woman should really be looking for other women for you. Okay, now that's not a hard and fast rule, because you're going to end up meeting women wherever you go.
Right.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with us flirting. We flirt. That's what we do. Excuse me, but a woman who is wise is going to watch out to see what you like. I had my main consort. I gave her the phone numbers of 3 women I was talking to. I was just getting to know these women. None of them joined me. Okay. But I had her call all 3 of them. I said, just talk to them. Give it 20 minutes. You got a 20-minute time frame. And I started smiling because I remember when I told her that, she was still getting used to the idea of being with a man who was a polygamist.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, as soon as I told her to do that, she said, okay, sir. She called all of them over a 2-day period. And she talked to them. I said, what did you see? Because she's my primary consort. So there's certain things that I'm teaching her, I'm not teaching the other women.
Okay.
So that's one of the challenges of, in the system that I teach, primary wife, and then maybe more wives from your culture. And then you need a prime consort. You need a consort who is really down for you. She's really, really down for you. She fits with you better than other women. That's the one you always secure those 2. And I'm actually soon I will have my primary wife as well. I've got a connection for that too. But that's one of the many challenges that a polygamous man faces. You also have to face the challenge of dealing maybe with her family that ain't with that. Okay. Because when you go meet the family, they may not like that. Now, the advantage that I have is because I pretty much command my time and they see I'm taking care of business there, like they're like, okay, you already got a woman and you build her a house. Like I'm about to build my primary consort a house. See, so when the other families see that, and especially if they come from a country like the Philippines where your dollar stretches much further, they see you got some money. They're like, okay, they gonna give you their daughter because they know, he gonna take care of my daughter. They're more likely to do that. So that leads us to the next challenge. And I've crunched the numbers. The data that I came up with, I crunched my own numbers, my own data. 0.052% of the world's female population are Black American women. Okay, and when I crunched the numbers, I said there's no reason that I need to focus on them because first of all, there's Black women everywhere. I mean, I like Black women, but I prefer African Black women and Caribbean Black women and Filipino Black women because I've seen Filipinas who are darker than me.
Man,
they're called morenas.
That's the thing. There's this network of brothers on YouTube that have emerged in the last, I want to say 3 years, called the manosphere, right? The Black manosphere, and that's one of the agendas that we're actually pushing through our YouTube network. Is instead of going from American Black women directly to non-Black women, to actually go from American Black women and to deal with Black women of other ethnic groups throughout the world. You know what I mean? Because we found, or what a lot of brothers found, is that these other Black women have those same physical attributes that we are attracted to as Black men, but they also have those domestic values and those traditional values and things of that nature that is actually they have it more so than even Western white women. You know what I mean? Which I would say that the Western white women don't really have it, but what the Western white women do have that attract a lot of brothers is the femininity aspect. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. See, that's the thing. That's the challenge, brother. We have to be able to really look at things objectively because remember, when you're running a family, it's a business. In fact, the first corporations in the world were families. The first militaries in the world were made up of families and clans and tribes. Okay. The first secret societies were families. See? In fact, who rules the world? Families rule the world.
Yes,
Single people don't rule the world. That's why I disagree with men who are like, man, we should all be single and just avoid these women. It's like, wait a minute, stop, time out. No,
Right.
you have to
we
learn
don't.
how to select and then deal properly and manage women. That's the way it is. So that's the challenge, is knowing what type of woman you like. As a matter of fact, that beeping you heard a few minutes ago, that was one of my consorts. She said, "Hi, sir, I'm on break. Can I call you?" And obviously, I'm not going to take the call while I'm on the interview, but
Right.
that's her call. But that's her calling me. So, you know, it's strange to me that men don't take a more objective approach to choosing women. I mean, yeah, you like what you like. Like Brother Jesse, you may like sisters who are, you know, a little taller, 5'11". She used to play ball. And, you know, or you might like a woman who's got a little more money. You might like your woman a little more down to earth and, you know, real earthy, like the hug trees and they vegans. And you may like a mixture of that. So all men like different types of women. However, we have to go into more objective standards too. For example, I always look at a woman's physical health. Always. I always look at that. So I look into her eyes. I listen to the timbre of her voice and the cadence of her voice. Does her voice have a rhythm to it? Okay. I look to see if she has cellulite. If she's young, she shouldn't have cellulite. Right. I ask her, what type of exercises do you do? Now, if she's not, obviously, if she's not working out in the gym, if I know that she lives in the countryside and she's walking all day and she farms, I know her body is strong. I don't have to interview her about that. You see, and I'll watch how women walk. All these things I just mentioned are objective. Okay. Does she ever challenge men? Like, in other words, objectively, have you ever seen her online arguing with men? That's a deal breaker. That's not a red flag.
Things that is very interesting to me because, you know, I'm in several polygamy or polygynist groups on Facebook, and, you know, I've seen a couple sisters that are married in polygyny, you know, second, third wife, that consistently get into arguments with brothers, consistently are disrespectful to brothers. And it's just one of those things that scratch me head.
That's because they rule the household. I can always tell who rules a household. Again, I'm still sticking to the question you asked me, so this may take a little longer. But finding women like that is easy. Yeah. Haven't you noticed, Brother Jesse? Have you ever seen any of my women online arguing?
No, I have not.
Ever,
never.
No, you haven't. And I've asked other brothers, have you ever seen my women online arguing? And I think two brothers said one day, they said, we think we saw your main consort comment like a couple years ago. Like she said, like, you know, have a good day or something like that on a post, you know. But most people have never seen them. And I don't mind that because they all like privacy. And I respect that. I'm not going to make them, you know, come to the forefront. So it's a good idea to get women who respect discretion because, in fact, I remember, and I don't mind sharing my pitfalls, like when I was doing things the wrong way. I was talking to this woman, I remember, and she was always popping off at the mouth online. And I pulled her aside. I said, listen, you got to stop that. I was like, you see, I'm out here trying to, you know, do this and that. I said, plus, it's just not very feminine to I mean, why are you talking about this stuff online? And she kept doing it. And that's one reason why I didn't keep her. That's one reason, because I personally don't like that. And one of my consorts is not even on Facebook. She's not even on Facebook. So
let me ask you this, brother. So I have 10 more minutes that I can stay on. Would it be possible for us to schedule a part 2 for this, maybe next Friday? Okay.
Absolutely. And
I'll get with you after the show. Well, I'll get with you maybe tomorrow sometime and see what your schedule's looking like. But we'll go on 10 more minutes. So let me I'll let you continue that. Yeah.
About the challenges. So, because I don't want to leave brothers hanging on that, you know what I'm saying? But the challenges are, so you have to find women who understand discretion. That's very challenging. Okay. Finding women who enjoy being a woman and being womanly. Okay. That's the challenge. And you have to find multiple women who fit this profile.
Right.
You have to find multiple women who are emotionally and physically healthy. That's very difficult because remember, in most cases, they're going to have your children. Now, in some cases, you may have a consort, she's a little older, or she may have a disease or have injury to her womb. She may not be able to have children, or you may even get a woman who is a single mother. Well, you know, and you like, well, I'm not going to, you know, she's not going to have my children if she already has children from another man. And that's another thing we'll address another time. But it is, you have to find women who come from families who are strong. That is an even bigger challenge. That's to me, that's the biggest challenge. So as far as the benefits are concerned, first of all, it fulfills a man's need for multiple women. Okay, as far as benefits for us is concerned. Also, when it comes to women, some women, the benefit for them is they get to have a dominant man. Polygynous men, we're naturally like we're trying to.
Hold on, can, repeat that for me. You broke up for about 5 seconds. Repeat that last statement.
I said the benefits for women. One of the benefits for women is some women just they want a dominant man. They want a man that has already established himself economically and has proven that he can take care of some women. He can manage women. Okay. Some women like that. I've had multiple women tell me that before. They said we like the alpha male in the crew. We want that guy because we know, first of all, he ain't gonna cheat on us. Number two, if he wants other women, he knows how to manage the time with me. And you know, that allows each woman also to engage in her own activities. So instead of being burned out, because if I got one woman, she's gonna have to be fly, like do everything. And I've tried that with women, and it doesn't work because they always tell me that I have too much going on. So anyway, another benefit is that when you have multiple children, if the women live close to each other or you live in a compound, you know, you can manage the children better. You can even homeschool the children because you have multiple people there. You can send one woman to school, she can get her license, you know, and now she's actually a teacher. She can teach your children. If one woman is tired, another woman can actually breastfeed your children. There's little practical things See, I focus on day-to-day pragmatism because polygamy is patriarchal, is progressive, and is pragmatic. Okay, so it's a thing where it's a survival system. It's a system of survival. Also, you can have more children. A woman's health deteriorates after her third or fourth child, and you start to see a decline in the general health of each child after the third or fourth child. Okay, so instead of you putting out 8 babies, if the man wants 20 children, he can have 20 children. Get you 6 wives and have 3 to 4 children with each woman. It keeps going on and on. And plus, some men just feed off of having multiple women, and they love having multiple women because they actually enjoy taking care of the women, love seeing them smile, and love spending time with each woman. And of course, I will be remiss if I didn't mention women have a monthly cycle. I know in Israelite culture and in Islamic culture, because these are not religions. Islam and Judaism are not religions; they're cultures that have religion within them, right? So when a woman is on her cycle for say 2 to 3 days, 2 days before, right at the onset, and 2 days after, that gives the woman time for onset because you don't want to have sex with that woman. She's not supposed to be engaging in interpersonal interaction with the man like that. Not supposed to be kissing and hugging and having sex and even oral sex, things like that. That allows her to take that 7-day period off where she can actually engage in her own hobbies, her own activities. And in Israelite culture, we always have a woman who's postmenopausal to serve the woman while she's on her cycle because that woman is postmenopausal, usually, of course, a little older. She gets to serve that woman her meals, clean up her domicile because every woman should have her own domicile, not living in the same house. You see, so these are some of the benefits, but there are many more. But I'll go into that, I guess, in part 2.
Okay. So one more question I want to ask you, and then I'll let you, of course, you know, plug any if you want to plug your book or social media, anything like that. What would you recommend for a brother that is wanting to practice polygyny to have before pursuing polygyny? Like, what's, in your opinion, the bare minimum he should have?
You need to get your health game up. You need to be you need to work out. Brothers need to start working out. I see a lot of polygynous men who ain't healthy. And that, I mean, what good is that if you got 10 wives and you're not healthy, especially your sex game. I actually got a whole section in my new book coming up on how to take care of your health as a man, and I got a section for the women. And this is really two parts. The answer to your question: he needs to be of sound mind and sound body and sound spirit. Okay. Second thing is he needs to be either self-employed or be an entrepreneur, unless he is in a skilled trade that allows him to make very good money and he has strong benefits. But that's not most jobs that men have. So entrepreneurship and self-employment are key. Those are key because you can always plug your women into that.
Right.
You can always plug your women into that. And now nobody's working outside the house. You understand? So in my household, there's a couple of my consorts who do work outside the house because that's what I want them to do right now. I want them to do that and handle that until I get them involved. Now, I have another consort. I pulled her off a couple years ago. I was like, in fact, as soon as after I met her, once I met her, the day I met her, I said, I want you to quit your job. She was like, what? It's like, how am I going to feed myself? I was like, I'll feed you. I was like, don't worry, I got you. She was like,
right.
But sir, she didn't trust me at first. She was like, no, sir, because what if you abandon me? I was like, I ain't going to abandon you, baby. I got you. I got you back. So she quit 2 weeks after we met. And, I just financed her because she's the main one who's responsible for the core of my household. So I don't want her focused on listening to some other man speak. Now, my other consorts, I'm bringing them off their jobs probably within the next 6 to 8 months.
Okay. So man, I must say I really appreciate you for coming and doing the interview with me, man. This is one of the best interviews we've done yet. There's a lot of great responses in the chat room from the brothers. They said they got their pen and pads.
Hopefully I can see those. See the chat when we're done.
Oh yeah. You can always go back on the replay and the chat will actually play out along with the interview if you want to rewatch that.
And shouts out to the brothers. I didn't get a chance to shout out the brothers, brothers and sisters. I assume there's some sisters in the room, some women, who have showed up. So thanks everybody for coming to the interview. I know it was late. And I was late, so I appreciate your patience.
I was surprised, man.
What's that?
Yeah, I was surprised we had so many people came out this late. We had 3 brothers and 1 sister that was in the chat watching. So shout out to Gerard, shout out to Healthy, shout out to Crew, and shout out to the sister Nyla H. Shout out to y'all for coming that late. Y'all could be out in the club. So just give a shout out, man. I dropped your book in your YouTube channel in the chat so people can subscribe and what have you, or pick up the book if they don't already have it. Just shout out any business ventures, social media you want people to go to.
Absolutely. I am on Instagram, but I haven't even used it yet. I am on Instagram. You can find me at Hondo Solomon. I will be working on that soon. I've got a podcast coming up called the Polygamist Papers Podcast, or 3P. I'm going to have a logo for that and everything. It's going to be dope. In the meantime, I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube, of course. YouTube, and you can find me at Polygamy as Economic Warfare. That's the name of my channel, Polygamy as Economic Warfare. You will find 85 videos there. You can find me on Amazon. My book is on Amazon.com. I will have it on Goodreads. I'm going to have it on Kindle, the Nook. I'm going to have it on all that stuff, including Lulu.com. I have it everywhere. That book is called The Polygamist Papers, An Introduction to Polygamous Culture and Its Principles, Pitfalls, and Ethics. I will redo that book. It's 54 pages. It's fully footnoted. It's got a nice bibliography in there. And I am going to make that book about 100 pages, and it will debut along with the sequel next summer, which is Polygamy as Economic Warfare, a dossier on family, rule, and government. Again, my name is Hondo Solomon.
Great title, by the way.
What's that?
I said that's a great title, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And one more thing, find me on Facebook. Those of you who are not on my Facebook page, you find me on Facebook. I do mention some other things that may deem controversial, but they're all coming from a very old world center. So I say things for a reason. It's not just for shock value. So if you see something you don't like, you just don't like it. I'm not there to make enemies or anything like that. We all say things that other people agree or disagree with. So again, you can find me on Facebook as well. So again, thanks for everybody coming out. Thanks for listening. Those of you who have watched the replay on YouTube, hit me up. Y'all hit me up too. And buy my book. More than anything, the book is only $12.12. Buy the book. Buy the book. I also do consultations for single men and for couples and for polygynous families on how to build their family. The things Brother Jesse and I have discussed today is only the tip of the iceberg. I've got so much more information right here, and that's coming in the book. And 400 pages, Annual Polygyny in the Modern Conscious. In other words, it will teach you how to engage in polygamy properly and take your family anywhere in the world at any given time and receive nothing but success. Right. So thanks again, Brother Jesse, for inviting me out. I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for coming along. Again, guys, this is Polygyny Talk with Brother Hondo Solomon. We will be back next Friday with part 2. Be looking out on my social media pages and what have you. I'll let you guys know the exact time once I get that squared away with the brother. And everybody, y'all have a good night. Peace. Make sure to share, like the video, and subscribe. Peace.
Peace.